Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Pathways to Success podcast. In studio today, I have Dylan Rafaty, and Dylan is the founder and chief navigation officer at DylanLlisted. Dylan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Julian. I really appreciate it. This has been a fantastic journey, and I appreciate you for allowing me to come here today.
Absolutely, man. Of course, shout out to all of our mutual connections, especially Jason Croft, who kind of brought us here together.
Yes.
So thank you, Jason. I know that you're watching. So Dylan, lots of things to talk about today. Your organization, these ideas that you're passionate about speaking on. But for those of you who have never met you or heard of you before, tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I am a young entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, that's focusing on social impact and social purposes for people with disabilities across the United States. And with that, and keeping that in mind with my previous educational experience in Plano, has led me to be self-aware of the challenges that I had to overcome. Mm-hmm. And with those challenges, the importance of those challenges really helped me wake up and realize my peers are going through the same journey. Right. And so what could I do to help them? Not necessarily help me, but help them. I knew that for myself, over time, I would develop skills that would be eventually employable, and it is today. Mm-hmm. That's when I published my book and was focusing on really about my story, about my history, and my
What is the name of your book?
The name of the book is actually long, but it came down during the, the teacher cutbacks in schools in Texas, and it was called Occupy Special Education. Mm-hmm. Now, it's not any relation to Occupy Wall Street at the time, but it was more of the occupying the importance of a student and teacher relationship while education. Okay. It was important that having that one-on-one attention going through that educational journey, and with that educational journey, everything in disabilities and in the IEP, which is the Individualized Educational Plan, mm-hmm. Everything has to be individualized, and it has to be original and customized for that person. Yeah. And so while my journey was not quite positive, however, I was a very outgoing and personable person. Mm-hmm. And with that, it led to me to found my own company focusing on increasing employment and training opportunities for this community of people with disabilities across the United States. Wow. And with that, it started the startup journey with Jason. I knew Tony because Mr. Tony Field, mm-hmm. through when he was running for city council in Dallas. Yep. And I was one of his youngest campaign folks walking out for him in Dallas. So with him, I met people like him and really thought the importance of connecting with the startup community and really connecting with the people in general. Right. And so with that, I pursued a partnership with, at the then time, Campus to Careers, mm-hmm. That was out of Austin. And Nathan Green was the founder of that and ran that program. And we realized doing a licensing partnership of understanding, Dylan, let's not build the whole thing yet. Mm-hmm. Let's customize it for your community. Yeah. And so we did, and we've received thousands of employers wanting to help and want to be a part of it. Not necessarily help, but be a part of the job site. But you know how many people with disabilities? Very few, only 23. In Texas and all across, so.
Wait, what is that number?
23.
23 is what?
Of job seekers with disabilities that were on the platform.
Oh, that were on the platform. Okay.
Yeah, so
at that time?
Yeah, at that time.
Okay, yeah.
And I realized there was a lack of awareness, lack of understanding, lack of education, and literally a lack of acceptance into an online platform. Here's why. There are a number of platforms out there that do these kind of things, but they're more of a job board. This was not a job board. This was actually a career exploration. It was designed for students that were coming out of schools and be able to understand what ideal careers for them, but also the ability of getting matched based on a percentage of what those jobs would be. Uh-huh. And so it was hard communicating and getting that trust from the families. Mm-hmm. So because of that, I struggled, and we had to close that site down. But we still have DylanLlisted today, but more focusing on the disability consulting professional services for businesses and families. And we've shifted our focus, and our original focus was transition focus, being transition planning for people with disabilities, their families, and also helping transition in businesses of any size to incorporate D&I, or disability and diversity, or disability, diversity and inclusion into their workforce. And so everything was in our favor, and it still is today, as the state recognized that no more focused on college readiness is now employment readiness. And I am one of the few people in the DFW region that focuses on that. And with that, it led to having my own nonprofit. That is DylanLlisted Connect, which for short we call it DLC to prevent confusion. And it's focusing on cross-disability community building. People are wondering, what's cross-disability? Cross-disability is that we have so many number of people with disabilities of different kinds. There's autism, there's Down syndrome, there's intellectual and developmental disabilities. There's ones with learning differences, ADHD, ADD, I have OCD, being hearing impaired, having physical disabilities. I am a person who's deaf in the right ear, partially deaf in the left ear with a hearing aid. I have neck and back fusion, so you don't really see it, but I do. I used to have glasses and no longer do, thanks to LASIK, but PRK really. PR is the too off topic there. But the whole thing is understanding that there are so many different disabilities which shouldn't be tailored and specific to a specific disability. And so with that, I've focused on social engagement with the abled population through community education. That includes housing, veterans, that includes transportation, healthcare, those kind of issues that concerns our community. So we're going to be focusing on that community education. And last but not least, I serve on a number of local, state, and international boards, and I plan to run for office in a couple years.
You are a busy man. So Dylan, I'm actually very curious that it seems like you devoted a huge portion of your life and your mission and your purpose to helping individuals with disabilities find employment. I am a professional recruiter for the past 11 years. I have been helping people find jobs for a very long time. I am curious, can you give us one success story that sticks out in your mind of how you've been able to help someone with a disability find a job?
So it's not necessarily find a job. Okay. Here's why. Our state wants us to increase the hiring initiative. We care about careers, we care about jobs. But you can only go so far when finding a job. What about the success rate of maintaining that job over a 90-day period? Okay. How about maintaining the success rate in a 6-month period? Many of the jobs that are placed among this population don't necessarily succeed after 90 days. And here's why. It's quick job placement. It's quick. It's not necessarily the best fit for the employer and not necessarily the best fit for the individual. And oftentimes, you have the pressure from your peers and from your family. So disabilities is an underserved. And part of that, and there's different barriers that these individuals go through. Of course, family and parents can really bombard them with and barge in and basically think that they know what's the best. They may do, but not all of them do. The actual job seekers with disabilities do need development of employable skills, and that relates to their interest. Of course, you got to start somewhere. From the employer side, they may bring them in, but not necessarily get the support from the provider they've partnered with. Right. And so there's a lot of barriers from a lot of ends. So really, most of my success stories have been where giving them that transitional guidance. As they come to me, they know that I'm not going to guarantee them placements. I'm going to guarantee them a sense of direction and urgency to get a job. So really, I'm giving them the accountability measures and giving them the tools and the resources and getting them connected with the community to help them ultimately reach their goals. So I'll give you a success story. So there's an individual who is obviously very strategically smart. He has self-identified of different disabilities. He has come to me with desperate need for employment. He is in a state where his family are low income. He has a need for, he has previous bad experiences with different workplaces. It only didn't last over a year. He's got a degree in information systems. He is involved in tech. He went through a school and necessarily didn't provide the accommodations to help him fulfill that school.
Yeah.
And they were supposedly guaranteeing him a career opportunity from that. But because it was a rare form of person with certain disabilities and certain needs were not met. And for that, he came to me sort of helping. But I noticed something from him. I told him that, yes, you may be, your glasses may be full. You have so much stress, you have family to worry about, you have family who can only be here so long and you need help. Then you also know that it's that you had previous experiences. And I wanted to learn his whole history.
Yeah.
I learned step by step, why are these jobs only lasting 6 months to a year? What happened? Did they provide you the necessary accommodation? Did they communicate? Did you put you in the right environmental setting? Is it an open setting? Is it a closed setting? Is it the noise bugging you? Is there the certain individuals that you worked with, your coworkers, had problems? You know, these are all the kinds of issues that concern me. And with that, so I focused on then I started to learn about him personally, and I realized he was not looking to me in the face. So
he wasn't looking you.
He was looking out the window and realized, oh no, I need to, and I was looking at him, nothing. I think he needs to have more interface interactions.
Sure.
And so I noticed he needed to develop social skills. He needed to interact with people that he relates to most at the very first point. Then on top of that, I've given him weekly goals on setting a better routine. And sometimes I have to do that too, like waking up early in the morning. And
sure.
I tend to be a night owl, so I'm usually up around until 4 a.m., go to bed, and then I got to wake up for the next thing. So,
wow.
But those are the things is that we have to work on the better livable habits. We need to work on the social thing. We need to work on making sure the family provides emotional support and guidance, not necessarily expectation, when necessarily that expectation does not fit your son or daughter.
Yeah.
So in that journey, I realized within a month, he was able to reach his goals and his expectations by setting a proper action plan, a weekly action plan, and a follow-up monthly procedure to get where he needs to go. Now, I haven't been able to communicate with him recently, but with his determination and his drive, I noticed after that first month visit, he and his mother started to see progress. He dressed very nicely and professionally. He looked right at my eye. He knew exactly, he was self-aware of what all the things he needed to work on.
Yeah.
He understood the different types of jobs that he had to mark down. At least 51% of marking, highlighting will put you in consideration. They will not guarantee your position, but it will put you in consideration. So when I tell people, look at your job description, highlight in red that you do not represent these type of skills. Highlight the ones in yellow that you might have not necessarily mastered, but you have proven skills and developed. And then highlight the ones in green that you have obviously mastered in that job description of what they're needing. If you can get at least 51 to 60%, people will put you into consideration.
Yeah.
However, if you can get above 80%, then you are in better position than you were before. And so he brought in 6 different job descriptions of different companies in the tech field. And he identified all the things that he wanted to do. And I said, well, okay, let's look. And I tell him, of this that we worked together on, of the 6 job positions, how many of them do you see as the best fit? And he realized only 2. Not everything fits in his equation. Not everything will fit to the employer. I also wanted him to work that social skills, so he had engaged with different networking events that are related in hackathons to tech-related focus to gaming and et cetera. So he really wanted to get involved in that crowd.
Yeah.
He noticed that it was hard at first, but I told him that if you need somebody to come with you and just engage, not necessarily be involved, but initially help you engage that, then do that. Bring some of your friends. That's how you can really connect a networking base. So once he develops his social skills and has more gainful understanding, I guarantee you he will reach his path. But it's how you determine goals, is how you determine your own expectations to lead the progress in the way.
I'm curious, what was his skill set? What was his?
His skill set was in more of the analyst part, but he was doing online classes, and he's trying to do courses off of that. He went through a program. I don't want to mention the program.
Sure.
Obviously, privacy and confidentiality.
Of course, right.
But with that, I do have his file, and if you're interested in hiring, I would love to pass that on information to you.
So I'm curious then, you mentioned it's a big education issue, and certainly as someone who has been hiring for a long time, it's just never really crossed my radar, right? So I'm curious, what would you consider is the biggest misconception that employers make when it comes to considering someone with a disability?
The misconception is the idea of how this whole process works. Do we work with the state and government level? Is there tax incentives involved? There's just a lot of information. And so employers don't really, it's actually a very simple process. It's like any other industry with the HR focused, any of those HR professionals. If the employer will provide the necessary support and funding and the proper leadership from up above, then you will actually, it can slowly patter down to the employee's level. And so it really is that if you can just open yourself up and just look into hiring just one and find and self-educate yourself in finding the right different organizations and providers that provide you that necessary support. But here's the thing. Don't find the ones that just does strictly job placements. Find the ones that will continue to work with you after the job placement process. Okay, whether it's a job coach or whether it's maintaining communication, because guess what? That's what I call collaboration. We need collaboration efforts in the workforce system for people with disabilities. And so businesses need to find collaborative partners and build that base. I'll give you an example. Bank of America Support Services at Infomart in Dallas. They have one of the biggest and most successful programs out there in the U.S. And that's in Dallas. They have about, I think, 80 to 90 employees of people with disabilities processing loans. Now,
really?
Yes. So they process a lot of loans, and they have almost 100% success rate. And so they do all the loans all across the United States, and it is processed in this big system. But so for example, I see Bottle Rocket has different tables. Imagine each table is designed to a specific task and need. So in that task, each person and they're obviously working there from 9 to 5, so Monday through Friday. And they're getting good paying jobs. And with that, but it's a full-time work job. And so they come in, they have different departments set up and they have different leadership roles as they have mastered certain skills or have number of years of experience. And so with that, I go there all the time and I get so excited because it's just an eye-opener. If businesses want and want to explore the idea, I would go and observe companies like Bank of America Support Services in Dallas and really get your hands on and learn from these guys. There's an organization that originally was part of the Department of Labor and now is a standalone membership organization, which I think Bottle Rocket should be a part of. And because there's a lot of DFW big time employer organizations as a member of this organization. And that is the United States Business Leadership Network. That's focusing on disability inclusion in different industries, corporate industries. So that includes American Airlines, Southwest Airlines. We have Raytheon, we have JCPenney, we have Toyota. All of them are in that organization. And it's a bunch of business executives and diversity to HR to some. We're hoping to get more C-suite executives in there and really just be a part of that. What's also funny is that we do have different affiliates. So we have the North Texas affiliate in connection with the Dallas Mayor's Committee on people with disabilities that promotes employment for people with disabilities. And there are different corporations in Dallas that are a part of that. On top of that, I'm on the Texas Governor's Committee on people with disabilities. So I'm really focusing on those legislative efforts and really connecting and working in different cities in that effort.
Wow, amazing. Well, I think we're kind of segueing into already. We're talking about social impact and also collaboration. So give us some thoughts on that. Like what have you seen from a collaboration perspective that actually moves the needle?
So I attended the Ruderman Family Foundation Inclusion Summit. And that Inclusion Summit had every different industries that affects and works with disabilities every single day. Now, some are fully inclusive of disabilities, and some are competitively integrated of people with disabilities, and some are just general population really only. So the Ruderman Family Foundation really focusing on the inclusion of people with disabilities, mainly through film and TV. And so that was an eye-opener because that's why I came over there. Why? I'll tell you later. But it's basically, I've learned the importance of collaboration and realizing the different people coming from around the world, coming to Boston, learning and engaging and networking with people, learning about all the different initiatives that are happening locally, but how can we bridge that locally, regionally, state, and national and international? So how can we do that? And right now I'm working on collaborating with the Ruderman Family Foundation to bring something, what they're trying to do, and bring it to Texas. You know, I'm always thinking of ways how to grow Texas, how to get us to be ahead of the game, while other states are kind of really extremely ahead of the game. What can we do to bring Texas into that play? We have a large pool of people with disabilities, more than 2.3, 2.6, actually, sorry, wrong, 6 million people with disabilities here in Texas. So, but it's really, yes. So, but the thing is, in Dallas County, that was 4 years ago, there was about, I think, 230,000 people with disabilities identified. Now, data doesn't show you all the facts. They don't know where they conduct it. They don't find it. There could be more. There could be more. Collin County is a rise of disability population there. There's in Tarrant County, in Denton County. Those counties, if you can put them together, I would say a good million in our community. It could be those with blindness, those with deaf and hard of hearing, to those with Down syndrome, autism. There's just a rise for that. So collaboration in that Inclusion Summit was really about what can we do to bridge partnerships and bridge collaboration with businesses, government, schools, providers, nonprofits, families, individual professionals, and more. And so for me, it was easy, relatable, as I knew many of the people in the room, but I was really anxious to meet new people. On top of that, it was a great learning experience because I wanted to learn what's been done the last 2 years. I also wanted to learn some inspiration of people who are paving the way for disabilities in different sectors. I also wanted to learn that, you know, as me being really powerful at networking, love networking, and people need to realize networking never stops. Your self-branding never stops. Things changes every day. You know, I have thousands of business cards, but of those 1,000, how many of them have switched jobs? How many of them? So you don't know. So you would have to eventually, one by one, catch up. Of those 1,000 of cards, I would say 10% of them moved on. And so I need to catch up with them because they might be an employer that may not have embraced diversity yet, and they're working on it. Maybe they need my support. So it's networking and branding is a never stopping process. So because I say that is I'm well established and connected with different organizations and providers across the state. and with my leadership roles and being educated on that subject, now I'm really focusing on, and since I gained that trust and that respect in that regards, now I'm thinking of innovations and innovative ideas and bringing businesses and communities together and working on big projects.
Wow.
Including working with coding schools, working with, and part of that I was telling you about film, and I'm planning on working on my own show.
Really?
Yes, and it's highlighting Texas disability organizations,
awesome.
entrepreneurs, individual professionals, organizations. So it's going to be very interactive. Not necessarily a fixed setting like this, but it's going to be a full-blown production. And so I hope to really launch that TV series next year.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I'll definitely stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
So I know another piece that you wanted to discuss was this idea of sort of inclusion. First off, how do you inclusion is the collaboration, which is creating that inclusion for different perspectives and things like that. Can you give us an example of how that's actually created something new, something that was truly valuable to the marketplace?
So can you be a little bit more elaborate on what you mean by inclusion has been?
So I guess let's first create that definition. What do you mean by inclusion? Because diversity inclusion impacts supports social entrepreneurship. How has inclusion actually created an impact?
So believe it or not, diversity and inclusion, let's just say diversity for now. Diversity today more than ever is a crucial aspect for any business. People will say differently, people will agree differently, or different opinions. Diversity today, I'm part of the Plano Citizens Academy, very good academy, to learn about the city of Plano. And I learned about the economic development, and I learned about the population of people with disabilities and other minorities. And the Asian population is the largest minority in Plano.
Really?
Yes. And so I was like, oh, okay, wow, great statistic. I did not know that. There was 19% of this Plano population, 19% of the 277,000 people living in Plano, yes. So it's an Asian population, dominant population. So with that, then you have all these other minority groups. With that, I've also learned about different needs, different cultures. Everybody has a different sensitivity issue that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Disabilities has its own set of issues, and many of that is more about how we connect them and in a collaboration and inclusion effort when we communicate with each other. It's more about communication.
Right.
You recognize them. You're not going to judge them. You're not going to make assumptions. You're not going to act based on those assumptions or judgments. But you're going to basically talk to them as a normal person, like everybody else. But really, you're going to assist them along the way. Okay, so if you were somebody who is self-identified, and I'm looking at you, I'm not judging you by your color of your skin. I'm not judging you by your cultural background. I'm not judging you. You are a part of this talent pool.
Right.
That's how I see you. I see you as somebody who needs certain. Now, you can judge based on the level of skills. You can judge based on the level of talents and what previous experiences. You can also judge if maybe that personality will fit in this type of workplace, but not necessarily that has a direct involvement or that relates to you. You don't want to have that controversial value. So diversity today is a learning journey for a lot of businesses.
Yeah.
A lot of them are incorporating D&I. Are small and medium-sized businesses doing it? Not necessarily. They're not necessarily there. Some of them are culturally diverse, but they don't necessarily embrace it or are aware of that.
Yeah.
So it's really about helping these small, medium-sized businesses understanding diversity while seeing that the corporate enterprises level already doing it is still a troubling process. Here's why. You're realizing that the community, that oftentimes the enterprises in the community are not connected. They're not aware. They're not, and part of that is enterprises are now developing employee resource groups. Now, I got a little off topic there, but the reason I say that is I wanted people to get the history of that.
Yeah.
Diversity plays into an inclusion. So inclusion really is about a person of any background, any race, any culture, any values that has a social issue that is incorporated into an event, gathering, and a workforce, an environment, and any of that kind.
Yeah.
So putting that diversity, we're embracing that, while inclusion of doing some action. So diversity is the pool of people. Inclusion is the act of including that diversity pool.
Interesting. Think of the company that is doing the absolute best in terms of implementing diversity and inclusion. How are they doing it?
Okay, so every company has a niche, and I'm afraid that companies oftentimes focus exclusively on one type.
Yeah.
It's the same thing in our community. Nonprofits are exclusively focusing on one type.
Yeah.
And so it's wrong. We really need to broaden our base and really see the different benefits of different sides.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be competing who has the best type of skills, who has the best social skills. It's not right.
Yeah.
So, and for, believe it or not, I understand why people do it exclusive, because they really want to master it before they move on to the next one.
Yeah.
But reality, part of my success is I opened the gap of understanding the different disabilities, understanding the different needs, but also understanding the different challenges. I want to be really educated through the whole broad spectrum of this pool. And because of that, I'm aware that we can in fact all of them have something in common. They all have the same struggles. It's just a matter of educating that each of them have a set of skills, set of abilities. So for an employer embracing diversity and really including them in the process. Okay, I'll give you an example of AT&T locally in Dallas.
Okay.
AT&T has embraced of people with disabilities involved in offices in tech, and really exposed the idea. Now, exposed is not a good word to some, but it really, what I mean by exposed, meaning really got hands-on.
Yeah.
And say, you know what, we need people that are already living in it today, and get them on board and help us develop a proper accessibility measure or proper way of communicating with disabilities and other markets as well. They also work on veterans too. They also work with different organizations. In that collaborative effort, they work with an organization that does a 6 to 9 to 12 week program. Of that 12-week program, they have different weeks of different goals. They go to corporate office, they learn the different skills, and the ones that are successful are offered a job opportunity. Same thing for veterans. Veterans are oftentimes in the customer service field and the customer support services field. So with that, they bring in these people that, and so oftentimes some of the veterans have disabilities, and they are able to communicate in that line. So there's oftentimes corporates like AT&T doing that. Bank of America Support Services, like I said earlier, has identified that measure. There's another, really it's like Toyota. Toyota has really embraced outside of disability, but really the cultural aspect of it. Why Toyota came to play now? Why Toyota came to Texas? Well, obviously they originally started here in Texas, but really was the diversity.
The diversity, yeah.
North Texas has become an employment center for our community. It's not just the amount of experience, it's also the diversity aspect of it. And we really have, that aspect. And so for any company that's coming in, and I'm realizing that with the different communication with different professionals in businesses, big corporation, is really that we're in the age and the era of diversity and inclusion. And diversity and inclusion impacts social entrepreneurship, because social entrepreneurship oftentimes works on a social purpose. Social entrepreneurship is on the rise. A lot of people don't credit social entrepreneurship. And here's why. I go to these universities, I go to these panel discussions, and I'm only asked one question with these virtual, I'm not trying to be bashing the virtual reality, love virtual reality.
Sure, yeah.
But they get 30 plus questions and I'm left behind. People need to realize D&I is on the rise and social entrepreneurship is on the rise. Without D&I, social entrepreneurship would not be successful.
Interesting.
Here's why. For my space, if I'm working with disabilities and I'm focusing on transition and employment, disabilities are obviously underserved in Texas in a variety of levels. But with the rise of D&I and that employers are now starting to embrace diversity, including that in their mission statements, including in initiatives and hiring initiatives, and embracing community events and so forth, then they can recognize that entrepreneurship like myself, like DylanLlisted, oh, DylanLlisted is doing some great events. Let's collaborate with him. Let's connect. Let's partner up. 5 years ago, it was not like that. It was competing. It was competing because there were only very few employers embracing that.
Yeah.
Now there's a large pool of people and businesses and organizations, the government's recognizing that, we need to start working with these different organizations and businesses that have this social aspect in business while promoting a need that we need for our base.
Yeah.
So really was D&I, diversity and inclusion, helps create a foundation for social entrepreneurship. Like Andre Angel, he does Tango Tab. He has an app. He's focusing on feeding the homelessness. That is a different type of social entrepreneurship, obviously. But in that aspect, he's impacting a pool where there's a rise of homelessness, especially in our own area. So, and there are cities now are slowly kicking out those that are in poverty level line. So companies like Tango Tab is increasing efforts from a business perspective, growing because D&I is coming to play, poverty issues are in the rise, and he's meeting an unmet need. There's companies like Howdy Homemade and a total ice cream shop of people with disabilities in Highland Park. And he's writing, Mr. Tom Landis is writing a story and letting entrepreneurs know that this is an untapped pool. I'm realizing my peers, as being a franchise owner of different restaurants, I realized I had one person and saw the unique abilities of that person. How about I create a place for them and have fully inclusive of people with disabilities? So he's providing an unmet need while being a professional, business professional, and realizing business are out of their mind for not hiring this pool. So he's meeting a need and increasing the hiring initiatives from a business owner perspective and running an actual physical facility or shop or a parlor in that line. So to summarize that, diversity and inclusion is creating that rise of D&I is creating a foundation and the supporting factor of social entrepreneurship. And is hoping, and I'm hoping, myself and other social entrepreneurs educate the public that social entrepreneurship is not necessarily a nonprofit. You can dedicate a percentage of your profits to a social cause or a social purpose that relates to your mission. Social entrepreneurship also affects collaboration. Because oftentimes you're a social entrepreneur, you can't do it by yourself. You got to work with people that will help bridge your mission in life, in business, in the people you serve. So in my business, I realized I need to work with government, schools, businesses, individual professionals, families, individuals with disabilities, providers. All of them have an effect in what I'm doing. And I knew I had to learn and understand each of their businesses. I had to learn who they are, what their challenges are in life. I also had to understand those values and their diversity values and understand their inclusion efforts. And so I identified all the ones that can come into a room of business folks and nonprofit folks in the room and leaders. And I told them, look, you can contribute this, you can contribute that, you can contribute this. This is what I'll bring to the table. We all are affecting different communities. We're all focusing on niches. But reality, I'm helping them develop a greater maximum impact or growth of opportunities for this space. So I'm bridging the community together. So D&I is creating a foundation for social entrepreneurship like myself. And social entrepreneurship has enabled the idea of, and the importance of collaboration. Yeah. And it is true today.
So Dylan, I think you actually really fully explained kind of the final point that I wanted to discuss, which was how one person can create impact, social impact through collaboration. But I guess, what kind of message would you have for someone who is just getting started, someone who wants to create an impact but just really doesn't know where to start?
Okay, so really it's about meeting people. So I tell people, and I said earlier that I wanted to run for office. Yeah. And I will. And with that, and only because for reasons is, there's not a strong advocate in disabilities today in the law, legislator, and local cities. Yeah. So we really need to empower that. So with that, I realized I need to meet with different professionals and different officials, both past candidates and current officials, in different cities, in different regions, in different states, and of course in our national government. I wanted to learn their day-to-day operations. I asked strategic questions. I asked for a meeting. So basically, I'll give you a process. I looked them up, understand their values and their purposes. I also looked at the value of, who they are, what region they cover, what their the people they serve. Are they diverse of people? I wanted to learn all that. On top of that, I wanted to learn who that individual is and what their previous experience leading into office. The third is that I wanted to learn about the past supporting legislation they've supported. Because if we come up with some topics, like say disability rights, and I want to talk about disability rights, then I want to be able to be educated on what he's been doing, whether supporting or he or she has been doing to support or not necessarily support disability rights. Then I also wanted to, with that being prepared and doing my due diligence, then I scheduled a meeting, and in that meeting, I introduced myself and about your inspiration and interest. When you share that with them and request that meeting, they will open the doors. You don't want to put your biases and you don't want to put that to the table. You want to learn about them. You want to share your story, but part of that is to connect with them. Because you never know, you run for office, you get elected, what happens? They might be working with you. You want to learn their personality. You want to learn their work styles, their work ethics, the type of ethics that they go about, how they communicate to people, how they function the day-to-day operations, how do they work with, how they work with different stakeholders, how they manage that. I wanted to learn the inside and outs of everything. And because of that, initially today, I would be better off being a school board trustee. And so for that, down the road, I plan to be either a city mayor or state representative, and then further that to Senate or Congress, and then eventually cast my candidacy for President of the United States.
Wow.
So, and only because I've really wanted, and ever since I was 5, I've always found the fascination of being a president. Wow. Now, I know being a president has a set of challenges and a set of rules, and you got to really follow by that. And you got to be really, really good at what you do, but you also got to have that business mindset, but also know that government and business don't work well together. Sorry, guys, I know this is going to be controversial, but I have to be honest. Yeah. In government, you don't operate it like a business. You operate it in a governmental way. Government has a set of rules. Business has its own set of rules. It cannot necessarily. Now, your skills of being a leader and a communicator from business will benefit in government, but not necessarily the policy side. And so some people need to really need to understand that, and they sometimes forget about it. So really, guys, anything that you want to do, any passion and drive and commitment, it takes effort, it takes time. It takes meeting people like Julian that really is innovative in his passion and is innovative in what he wants to do. He has a plan. He has a goal in mind how to achieve that. It's not A to D. It's A, B, C, D. There's different steps that go from that. And with that, along the way, you want to collaborate with people that relate and support your mission. And when you want to also not collaborate with them, but you want to create a foundation of supporters. And with that, it can help you to further advance and reach your goals. And so with that, guys, the more you collaborate, the more you talk, the more you meet, the more you network, the more that you get out of the bed in the morning feeling, I'm going to accomplish one thing today. I'm going to either inspire someone today, or I'm going to impact someone's life, or I'm going to do something that's going to help me personally develop my goals and my passions. Obviously, guys, this is my passion. Disabilities is my passion. But I've been countless number of times, and I call myself the chief navigator, is because I'm helping navigating individuals, professionals of different minority groups, including disabilities, at-risk youth, veterans, and a variety of populations, including the general population. And really, it's that navigator role had to be developed. It had to be mastered. But with that, I knew that I was passionate about it. I just needed the tools and the resources to get there. And I found it. And thanks to the support, I'm able to accomplish those goals.
Wow. You're an inspiring dude, Dylan. I love it, man. Dylan, how do people connect with you? How do they work with you? How do they learn more about you? Tell us all this.
So my name is Dylan, and so D-Y-L-A-N. And you can email me at Dylan, D-Y-L-A-N, at DylanLlisted, DylanListed.com. You can also call me or text me, 469-487-3199. You can visit my website at www.DylanLlisted.com. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter. I'm trying to get into Twitter now. I'm not a fan of Twitter. I'm more of the social networking component of having more than 120 something characters, and really having pictures and videos. And with that, you can also, if you want to collaborate, you want to talk, you have an idea, a business idea, concept. If you need additional support and guidance, whether it's an emotional support or the ability to facilitate a connection, or the ability of connecting you or coming with you in such meetings to help be that ambassador or that leader for you. Or if you need somebody if you want me, DylanLlisted, to contract for you, whether you're an organization, I have skills that I would independently contract from DylanLlisted to work with your organization to help you develop that goals. And I'm helping nonprofits, for example, in identifying grants and initiatives, but also developing that administrative goals. So I'm really advising them and giving that emotional and the proper support to develop that team. And so I'm helping a number of organizations on that. Also, I keep in mind that while I'm writing a new book, a universal transition guide for families and people with disabilities, it's going to be a big book. But it's like the Dummies Guide, but not necessarily Dummies Guide, but it's more about the transitional guide for families. And then on top of that, I'm also starting my show. If you want to sponsor the show, I'm still working on the details, but thankfully we have a great production team that is really on board. And so with my network, we're obviously going to build that base. And the last but not least, actually there's two more. The other one is DylanLlisted Connect is looking for initial funders. So if you want initial funding to help us support and create the membership database, we're looking for partners because we really want to start building this community, this membership-based community, and really focusing on community efforts. So if you want to collaborate in that initiative or help provide a donation to help initially support it, and or if you're a tech company that's wanting to that can help assist in development of the website, that would be greatly appreciated. And the last but not least, if you're really interested in getting involved in supporting my political journey and in the support of diversity and inclusion and be a strong advocate for all in the legislative needs, please contact me. Thank you.
Dylan, you inspire me, man. I appreciate it. It's been an honor to have you on the podcast, man. So
thank you.
And we'll make sure to collect everything that you said and put it in the
show
notes as well. So thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Pathways to Success podcast, and we'll see you next week.